Okay, so in this video, I share with you the complete review of the all-new OnePlus Pad here. I will fully cover the tablet along with all of the accessories that OnePlus made for this bad boy right here. Let's go ahead and jump in. First things first, the unboxing. Although I've been using this guy here for the past 9 to 10 days, I still want to go ahead and include that in this video because not only is this a new tablet, but it also comes with a bit more than just the tablet, as the trend that we've noticed with Samsung and Apple. So let's hop in. First thing you will see out of the box is the tablet itself, but we'll take a look at that in a little bit here. Next, what we have would be the manual or the safety guide. And you also have that quick start guide. What we have next here is going to be the membership card, the OnePlus Red Cable Club as illustrated here, as illustrated on the card there, which is actually going to be a nice segue into the next thing that we take out the box here, which is of course the charging cable. And as you notice, the color is the OnePlus's signature red, again as shown on the Red Cable Club card that I just showed you. Then we have our charger brick here, and we should note that this is pretty impressive here. This bad boy can push out to 67 watts, so this is more of a hyper fast charger brick, and that's pretty neat. Finally, of course, we go back to the tablet itself, and at first glance here, the design is different from what we are accustomed to, right? Especially as it relates to the back of the tablet, as you see here. It has kind of that different type of camera module that you see on the back, and I personally like this design, right? Because it's different from what we've seen before. The round corners, it's kind of weird because it's light, but at the same time, it feels kind of dense, right? It has that premium feel to it, even though this guy here is coming out to be a flagship killer, which is kind of the signature move that OnePlus has for its devices. But anyways, I really like this design, and to be honest, I'm thinking about reviewing more OnePlus devices because so far I'm pleased with what I'm seeing. But anyways, this guy here is currently priced at $479, and that's just for one config. Now, physical attributes that we can notice here really quick would be, as I mentioned, the rounded corners, but a part of the top there is flat, as you can see here, and that's where the stylus will rest. Then of course we have the power button, volume rocker, we have mics around the tablet there, the pin connectors for the keyboard there, a USB Type-C port, and a quad speaker setup, which by the way sounds really nice. It is really loud. I'm impressed by them. But anyways, let's go ahead and cover the specs and performance here. And I have to note that the specs alone on this guy here are super impressive for something that is priced for under $500, $480 to be exact. So why don't we start off with a display here. It's boasting an LCD panel that is supporting an impressive, very high 144 hertz refresh rate, but there is a caveat though. You can go at up to 144 hertz for sure, but there is a catch. You would only do so for certain apps approved by OnePlus, which makes sense, of course. But then the rest, as you would imagine, it would just adjust depending on where the refresh rate is on the app and all of that good stuff. So it can bounce up and down in between. Now, it does support HDR10+. The resolution here is 2000 by 2800, and it's outputting 296 PPI. So, of course, image quality, it's pretty sharp at 296. You also have 500 nits here, so that means you can actually take this outside under direct sunlight and you will be fine. Pretty nice viewing angle, so 500 nits on the tablet, that is actually pretty bright. Colors are definitely vibrant, image quality is very sharp, and of course, scrolling through is just very, very smooth. As I mentioned, you're looking at 144 refresh rates. The aspect ratio here is also something worth mentioning. You're looking at a 7:5 aspect ratio, which is not typical on a lot of tablets, but it's really good to see it here because apps like Instagram, for example, are not optimized to work on, all tablets, right? So it looks pretty weird. It's kind of cut up. You have like those black bars, but only here it's actually up, with that aspect ratio, it is actually optimized to look just like a phone, but of course it will be just larger. So it's nicer to look at Instagram on the tablet when compared to other tablets. Now, my experience watching movies and playing games so far has been great. I have zero complaint. Even just the visual alone, it's a very nice size tablet for most people because it's standing here at a little over 11 inches. I believe it's 11.6 inches. Then in terms of platform, what we have here is a MediaTek chipset, precisely a Dimensity 9000 SoC, right? So the chipset is actually top level. So it offers performance that comes pretty close to an overclocked version of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Yeah, you heard that right. So an overclock, right? So Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 would be what you are looking at here in terms of performance. So something around there, which is, again, very impressive because OnePlus is coming out here to be the, pro tablet killer, right? The flagship killer of pro tablets. And that platform is supported with 8 gigs of RAM, which is, pretty standard with that level of performance. The unit that I have here is the base 128 gigs of internal storage, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the one config that you have on this tablet. Now, you will note that there is another config, which is 256 gigs of internal storage along with 12 gigs of RAM, but as of the shooting of this video, it is not available in the US. Also, keep in mind that internal storage is non-expandable here, a little bit like what you have with, the iPads, right? Which, by the way, this seems to be playing in that field. Although it's a, Android tablet, it seems to be playing around kind of like an iPad. It wants to be the iPad of Android, if that makes sense. Because so far in my experience, as I have been using this over the past, I'm gonna say about 10 days, like I mentioned earlier, overall performance is good and all that, but it just has kind of an iPad feel to it. Of course, it does perform like a productivity tablet, even though it doesn't claim to be a pro tablet. It does perform like a productivity tablet. In terms of software, out of the box, what you will have here is gonna be Android 13, along with Oxygen OS 13.1. Oxygen OS, for those of you not familiar, would be, the operating system for OnePlus here. Now, for some of you who may not have played with this before, it might take some getting used to, but overall, I have found it to be, pretty smooth, especially, given the specs that you have on this tablet here. You're gonna be able to do some level of multitasking here without any performance issue. Again, the specs just speak for themselves. But one thing I gotta bring up is that when it comes down to just switching in between apps, especially like going back and forth between two apps, I found it not to be as smooth as I would like. Not that it's a performance issue, but I'm thinking it's more that, the animations are not set up to make it so that it looks like something that I'm used to in terms of switching back and forth in between apps, right? So it's not a performance issue. I'm just thinking it's kind of the setup, kind of the platform that they have, and that's how it is. Now, they may tweak this as time goes by, with software update, because by the way, this is set to be supported for up to 3 years of, software updates, and of course up to 4 years of security updates, which is actually very nice, because that's something that I would like to see with other manufacturers such as Lenovo and other manufacturers out there. But anyway, so it's good to see that they are supporting the tablet that long. Now, that being said, of course, you do have some pretty cool and interesting, transition option as you play with the tablet here. I very much enjoy those, right? So whether you're using your fingers or the stylus that comes with it, you should be able to, kind of line things up, toggle in between windows without any issues, right? You're able to drag things around, line them up side by side, set up floating windows and so forth. Sure, it's not the level of a Samsung DeX type of productivity, but in terms of just tablet, multitasking, you're able to access that without having to mimic, a computer like, Samsung DeX does on Samsung tablets. So again, pretty neat stuff. And like I mentioned, with the additional accessories, you're able to go further, even with the keyboard and the stylus. You're going to be able to boost your productivity. And speaking of stylus, by the way, it does support OnePlus's Stylo, right? So that's the name, the OnePlus Stylo, which by the way is an active stylus, so it will require charging, that you can do by simply attaching the stylus here to the top part of the tablet, the top flat part of the tablet that you have here. And taking a look at the packaging of the stylus, it's a pretty straightforward packaging, as you see here. What you have will be the stylus at the top of the box there, and there's a magnet actually holding it. It doesn't have like a little chamber where it's sitting it. There's a magnet holding it when you open the box here. Then you have the manual, and that's pretty much it. The stylus itself is a pretty decent build. I'm gonna say something pretty close to what you have with the Apple Pencil 2nd generation in terms of looks and even the build. Again, the plastic tip, right? So it kind of pulls away from what you have with like the Samsung S Pen, which is more of a rubbery type of tip. This is more plastic, so it kind of taps a little bit like it does with the Apple Pencil 2nd gen. So that's that same feel that you get here. The tips here are swappable, which is a pretty nice move, right? Because if it damages, then you can simply replace it. In fact, what you have in the box will be an extra tip just in case you were to mess up this one here. You could just replace it with what comes with it. And another thing to notice about this guy here is that it boasts a 2 millisecond latency, which is super impressive, but user experience, on the other hand, doesn't seem to show it, right? I wasn't necessarily blown away by the Stylo experience here. It feels, I want to say, a bit clunky when compared to the Pro Samsung or the Pro iPad styluses, but it's still pretty good, and also gives you a few options to customize it and, kind of improve your user experience. So that was pretty neat there. Now let's go ahead and move on to camera. Now, that very obvious camera that you see on the back there is a 13 megapixel camera that can shoot 4K at 30 frames per second. Now, for a tablet, the sample shots that I took were pretty decent, right? It's not necessarily going to be something that's going to blow your mind, but it's pretty decent. Now, another thing I want to note here is that the camera placement, even though it's new and different and pretty cool, it kind of gets in the way sometimes if you have to hold a tablet. So I find myself having my fingerprints all over it because, as you're holding the tablet, in portrait mode, you are definitely bound to touch that, unless of course you move your hands down and hold like this, or hold it awkwardly like this. So that's just something I figure I'll go ahead and note here. The front camera is an 8 megapixel one, so nothing particularly mind-blowing as you would expect, but you just gotta make sure that you are in a well-lit setting and you should be fine. Now let's go ahead and move on to a battery, which is another aspect of this tablet that I really like. The battery has been phenomenal, right? It's been really top-notch. Not sure the tablet itself is still brand new, so of course the battery is going to be good, but you are looking at a pretty large battery here, 9,510 milliamp, which is, again, for tablets that are about this size here, typically you don't get something that large, but it's a pretty good battery, and standby time is also very, very good. Now, of course, all of this is going to be subjective to your type of usage, but out of the gate, you should be getting very, very good battery life here. Now, there are additional features we can quickly mention here. You don't have a fingerprint sensor like you would on other tablets, but you do have a face unlock, and you also do have a way to unlock the tablet using a passcode, which either one works. Okay, there's really not much I can say with that. The typical face unlock, how that typically works, so you have that option here. And the other thing that OnePlus did is a little bit like it is the case with Apple or the Samsung ecosystem. If you own a OnePlus phone, you have a way to set up some level of connectivity between both devices, right? So the phone and the tablet, where you can get your text messages and a few other things, or swap back and forth between the tablet and the phone. So I'm kind of looking forward to what OnePlus does in regards to its future ecosystem. So it looks like they're kind of building something solid there, so definitely more to come. Now, the device itself is set up in a way where you can easily go back and forth in between different users by setting up more than one account on the tablet, a little bit like it is on the computer, right? So it's pretty much very consumer focused. As I mentioned earlier, when I bought this tablet, I went ahead and just ordered everything that came with the tablet, everything that they had available on the tablet. So we're gonna start off with just the book cover here, the keyboard book cover here, and the build quality on it is not bad at all. This particular one ran me $150, so you're gonna find it for $150 on their website. The build quality is not bad, right? It's not to the level of a Magic keyboard that you have with the iPad Pro or whatnot, but it is actually pretty decent, build quality. I'd say something closer to the Tablet 7 keyboard cover in terms of quality, right? It synchronizes pretty well with the tablet and works pretty well with it too. But unlike the others, this one can only be put in a one non-adjustable angle, right? So you just have one way of sitting it on a flat surface. So keep that in mind. The keyboard also is not backlit or anything, which is understandable, of course, for something priced here, but it works well. The keys do have a short distance to travel. They feel pretty neat, and you have some shortcut keys on it. So again, using it has been pretty nice. The trackpad is also pretty decent. The only problem I should say that I have with it is that it feels pretty small, but again, it does the job. Now, the next one that I want to go over is just the folio case that we have here, and this one is pretty straightforward, right? It's going to run you $40 or $39 like it is the case on their website. The build quality is also pretty much the same stuff you have with the other one, with the keyboard cover, and it works, right? It protects your tablet, and you can also use it to prop up your tablet, right? So have it sit on the table. Maybe you have a third-party keyboard or something like that that is connected to your tablet. You can still use this guy to set your tablet up and use your keyboard, which again is not bad at all, especially at $40. Now, in summary, here's my take. This is a very well built, consumer focused tablet. That's how I see it. Out of the gate, OnePlus just knocked it out the park. It's a very, very nice tablet for the price, $479 with the specs loaded here. And at that price point, it is really competitively priced and loaded with pro-like specs. I actually would recommend this tablet in more than a few cases, not in all cases, but definitely in a lot of cases, and that is based off of my experience so far. And of course, as I always say, don't just go out there and just blindly buy a tablet. You first got to figure out why you need a tablet, what you're going to be doing, with your tablet. That typically is the way I advise people to go ahead and figure out whether they need a tablet. So I definitely would recommend this guy here in a lot of cases. I will continue to use this and compare this to the other tablets that I have here, and I make sure to drop more videos, more of those battle videos that you guys like, between this and iPads and Samsung tablets, and we'll see who is the winner. Anyways, I'm certainly hoping that this was informative. Of course, feel free to share this video if you know anyone who would be interested. Make sure, of course, to like the video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure to comment. I will catch you in the comment section like I always do. I'm also going to catch you in the next video. Up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.